Hello friends, now let us learn a new topic today about the sinonasal tumors. So let us now learn about the sinonasal tumors. So these sinonasal tumors, first we will see some salient features. Before that we will see predisposing factors. The predisposing factors of sinonasal tumors are nickel with duration of exposure. This nickel is predisposes to squamous cell carcinoma and anaplastic carcinoma. Then we have hardwood and softwood. Hardwood and softwood will predispose to adenocarcinoma of ethmoid sinus. Then we have hydrocarbons, which are also important. Then we have mustard gas, which is a predisposing factor. Radium dial workers predisposed to soft tissue sarcoma. So it predisposes to soft tissue sarcoma. Then we have welding or soldering. Even these will predispose to sinonasal tumors. So all these are the predisposing factors of sinonasal tumors. If you see, these sinonasal tumors are more common in males followed by females, most common in fifth decade. We have some one-liners. See, what is the most common malignancy of skin of nose? That is basal cell carcinoma. Most common benign tumor of nose is capillary hemangioma. Most common site of this capillary hemangioma, if you see, that is nasal septum. It's the most common site of capillary hemangioma. What is the most common benign tumor of paranasal sinuses? That is osteoma. Most common being frontal sinus of osteoma. Then if you see, what is the most common malignant tumor of nose and paranasal sinuses? The most common malignant tumor is squamous cell carcinoma, is more common than adenocarcinoma. Then let us first learn about the first tumor, which is papilloma. You can see papilloma in this picture also. Okay, the most common site of papilloma is nasal vestibule, is the most common site of papilloma. Then anterior part of the septum is next. Then what is the treatment of this papilloma? You will have to do cautery or cryotherapy and thus remove the papilloma. So this is the papilloma which you see. So if you see this papilloma, uh, yeah, so this papilloma, if you see, in this papilloma you see some foldings. Okay, so that represents papilloma. So you can see papilloma even in the diagram here. This is papilloma. Next, the next topic is about the inverted papilloma or transitional cell papilloma. So if you see, in the inverted papilloma there are many names for it, which is inverted papilloma. We have papillary, Schneiderian papilloma, transitional cell papilloma, or Ringer's tumor. So these are different names of papilloma. So what is the most common age group of inverted papilloma? It is 40 to 70 years. Most common in males followed by females. It is associated with human papilloma virus. So what is the site of this inverted papilloma? This most commonly occurs in the lateral wall of the nose. Even here you can see it is in the lateral wall of the nose. See, this is the lateral wall of the nose papilloma, which you can see in the anterior rhinoscopy, but it is seen on the lateral wall of the nose, mostly in the middle meatus. See, this is the middle meatus. So it is seen in the middle meatus. It is most commonly seen to be unilateral and it is locally aggressive tumor. So next, if you see here, you see that this inverted papilloma has finger-like projections or invasions which are underlying that stroma. These are seen finger-like projections or invasions underlying the stroma. Okay, underlying the stroma you see finger like invasions, or you can see these. See, this is the finger like invasions which you're seeing. Even in the picture you can see here, these are the finger like invasions which are into the underlying stroma. These are into the stroma. So this is inverted papilloma. This is the picture of normal papilloma where the papillae are outside. Here the papillae or projections are into the stroma. So this is into the stroma. So if you see, this is the normal papilloma. If you see, normally it is present outside. See, this is the outside. To the outside you will see these polyps. Okay, so this is normal papilloma. So if you wanted to see this inverted papilloma, this is the stroma. So if you see, this is the stroma which I am drawing, and to the stroma you can see these polyps. Okay, so that is inverted papilloma. Okay, now after these are inverted papilloma which are into the sinuses, not to the outside. Okay, next, what is the clinical features? As you see, it is present unilaterally. You can see nasal obstruction. You can see unilateral nasal obstruction, or rhinorrhea can occur. And then because it is a papilloma, there can be epistaxis. In 10 to 15% of cases, it is associated with squamous cell carcinoma. So because it is associated with squamous cell carcinoma, so generally it is a pre-malignant lesion. Okay, so generally it is a pre-malignant lesion because it is associated with the squamous cell carcinoma. Now, what is about the treatment? How are you going to treat this lesion? The treatment is mainly done with the help of maxillectomy. Actually, this maxillectomy is the treatment of choice. So, there are many approaches by which this maxillectomy can be done, but here we do the lateral rhinotomy approach of maxillectomy is done. You see, lateral rhinotomy approach is done. You can see here also, this is the lateral rhinotomy approach, or you can go through the lip also, that is sublabial deglobing approach we call. So with the help of those two approaches you can do maxillectomy. Nowadays we can do endoscopic procedure also. So this is the endoscope, and you will just remove the papillae, and also you will remove the maxilla. Okay, so if you see here, so this is the one which you see here, this is the papilloma. Okay, so this is about the inverted papilloma. Then once you have learned about the inverted papilloma, then now let us learn about the next topic, which is about the squamous malignant tumors of the nose. So in the malignant tumors of the nose, the first tumor which you learn here in the malignant tumors of the nose is called as the first tumor which you learn here is squamous cell carcinoma, is the first tumor which you learn here. This squamous cell carcinoma is the most common histological type of tumor which you see in malignant tumors of the nose. So this squamous cell carcinoma is the picture which is shown here. This is squamous cell carcinoma. This is also called as nose pickers carcinoma. Site is, it is most commonly seen on lateral wall of the nose. In the nasal cavity also you see it on the lateral wall of the nose. And this squamous cell carcinoma will extend into the, it can extend into the maxillary sinus and ethmoidal sinus also. Okay, so based on that we will have clinical features. This squamous cell carcinoma is most commonly seen in males who are more than 50 years of age, and here metastasis is also rare. Then the treatment of this squamous cell carcinoma is by, you can do radiotherapy, and you will have to do a surgery. That is the treatment. Next, the next malignant tumor of the nose is malignant melanoma. Okay, so this is malignant melanoma. So this malignant melanoma is most commonly seen in the age group of more than 50 years, and here you see this malignant melanoma has bluish black polypoidal mass. It is seen as bluish black polypoidal mass. The most common site of malignant melanoma is in the anterior part of nasal septum. It is seen in the anterior part of nasal septum. Then how are you going to treat this malignant melanoma? The treatment is by, we can do it by wide surgical excision. So this is done by wide surgical excision. So once you have learned about the malignant melanoma, the next important thing that you have to treat here, the next important malignant tumor of the nose is about the olfactory os neuroblastoma, sorry, olfactory neuroblastoma. We will also call it as esthesioblastoma, olfactory neuroblastoma, or we will call it as esthesioneuroblastoma. So this olfactory neuroblastoma is, or esthesioneuroblastoma, this is a neuroendocrine tumor. This is most commonly a neuroendocrine tumor, and you can see the picture of a person with olfactory neuroblastoma. It is actually crippling. It uh, malforms the face also. Okay, so this is a neuroendocrine tumor. The most common age group is, it has two peaks. There is increased incidence at 11 to 20 years of age and at 50 to 60 years of age. It is most commonly seen in females, and it is seen in the upper third. See, it is also seen in the upper third of nasal cavity. Okay, it is seen in the upper third of nasal cavity, and it will spread intracranially. So it will spread intracranially. So if you see, just a minute, this is the intracranial extension of neuroblastoma. See, it has spread intracranially, so this is the intracranial extension. Okay, then how are you going to treat it? You will have to do a surgery. So you can see the surgery here, which is craniofacial resection should be done. You will do an anterior craniofacial resection. Okay, this is done, and followed by, you can do radiotherapy and chemotherapy. Okay, and if you see this, okay, so next topic which we are going to learn here is about the adenoid cystic carcinoma. Okay, let us learn about adenoid cystic carcinoma. So what is this adenoid cystic carcinoma? This is most commonly present in the antrum and in the nose. This adenoid cystic carcinoma is most commonly seen in the antrum and in the nose. If you see microscopically, you see this adenoid cystic carcinoma has Swiss cheese appearance. Okay, so this adenoid cystic carcinoma is the most common tumor. It's one of the most common tumor in the parotid gland. We will learn about the details in the parotid gland, but if you see, this is causes perineural spread. Okay, next thing is about the basal cell carcinoma. Basal cell carcinoma is most commonly seen in the age group of between 40 to 80 years of age group, and it is most commonly seen in males. 40 to 80 years of age group, most common in males, and it is associated with UV exposure. Then if you see most common site of basal cell carcinoma, it is seen in the inner canthus of eye. It is most commonly seen in the inner canthus of eye. So this is about the different tumors of the nasal cavity. Now after having done the tumors of the nasal cavity, now let us learn about the next tumors, which is tumors of paranasal sinuses. So let us learn about tumors of paranasal sinus tumors. So these paranasal sinus tumors can be either benign tumors or malignant tumors. So first we will see benign neoplasms. So in the benign neoplasms we have two diseases. One is osteoma and the other is fibrous dysplasia. So first we will learn about osteoma. So if you see in the osteoma, this osteoma is the most common benign tumor of paranasal sinuses. It is the most common benign tumor of paranasal sinuses. Then this osteoma is slow growing. Most commonly it is seen frontal sinus, in the frontal sinus. Then it is followed by ethmoidal sinus, followed by maxillary sinus. It is most common in the frontal sinus, then ethmoidal sinus, then maxillary sinus. If you see clinical features, the clinical features are, it is silent. Then if ostium is closed, then it can cause mucocele, okay, which can lead to the Clinical features of mucocele are it can cause headache and it can cause diplopia also. Then, if you see, if you do X-ray and CT scan, so if you see, you can do it an X-ray or CT scan is done, which shows dense mass and ground glass appearance. So this is the mass which you see in the frontal sinuses. Then if you treat the disease, treatment is by excision. In the excision, you will do frontal and sphenoidal osteoma, and this frontal or sphenoidal osteoma is removed by external fronto ethmoidectomy. It is removed by external frontoethmoidectomy. So this procedure is also called as Lynch-Haworth procedure. We call this as Lynch-Haworth procedure. Then once we have learned about this osteoma, so this is the picture of osteoma. Now the next which we are going to learn is, this is also the picture of osteoma, is about fibrous dysplasia. So if you see in the, this is the fibrous dysplasia. Okay, here the medullary bone is gets converted to fibroosseous tissues. In the fibrous dysplasia, mainly the medullary bone gets converted to fibroosseous tissues. It is most commonly seen in the age group between 5 to 15 years of age. It is most commonly seen in females, where you see painless swelling is seen of the bone. You can see this swelling is painless, and there is cosmetic and functional, which will lead to cosmetic and functional disability. Okay, so this is about fibrous dysplasia. What is the most common sinus which is affected by fibrous dysplasia? Most commonly it is seen in maxillary sinus or maxilla, and most commonly in the maxilla also it is seen in canine fossa or zygomatic arch. Here you are seeing it in mandible, but it is most commonly seen in maxillary fossa. In the picture here it is in mandible. Okay, then what about the X-ray? You can take X-ray, PNS or CT scan is can be taken, and in that you see it has ground glass appearance. The treatment of this fibrous dysplasia is by surgery, and here radiotherapy is actually not done because it will lead to malignant transformation. In order to prevent the malignant transformation, this radiotherapy is not done because it can lead to malignant transformation. It can activate malignant transformation. So mostly we will do surgery. Then next about the malignant tumors of paranasal sinuses. Then in the malignant tumors of paranasal sinuses, etiology is it can occur in hardwood furniture industry. It can occur in it is the etiology, the risk factors are hardwood furniture industry. It is it causes, it can cause, or it might increase the risk of adenocarcinoma of ethmoid and upper nasal cavity. That is also called as woodworkers carcinoma, because this most commonly occurs in hardwood furniture industry. That is, hardwood is from wood, so it is woodworkers carcinoma. Then nickel refining also increases the risk of squamous cell carcinoma and also anaplastic carcinoma. Okay, squamous cell carcinoma and anaplastic carcinoma. Then one more risk factor is leather industry. Now what about the, then one more risk factor is manufacturing of mustard gas. The industries where mustard gas is manufactured, it is also a risk factor. Then coming to the histology, this malignant tumor of paranasal sinuses, this is most commonly the etiology in 80% of the cases. It is in 80% of the cases it is mainly the squamous cell carcinoma. In some cases it can be adenoid carcinoma or adenoid cystic carcinoma. Rarely it can be melanoma or sarcoma. And if you see, the most common site of malignant tumor of paranasal sinuses is maxillary antrum, which is followed by ethmoidal sinus, which is again followed by frontal And then sphenoidal sinus. So most common is malignant antrum and least common is sphenoidal sinus. So it will occur in seventh decade of life, most common in seventh decade of life. Okay, so it is most common in males followed by females. Then if you see, this is the example of maxillary carcinoma. Okay, then let me show you the X-ray picture also. See, this is the picture of the CT scan. Sorry, not X-ray. I'm really sorry. This is the picture of M. I'm sorry. This is the picture of MRI. Okay. Here clinical features are early or late. Here this malignant tumor is present in the maxillary sinus most commonly. So early features are nasal features will occur, especially nasal stuffiness, unilateral epistaxis or facial paresthesis, and pain can occur. Euphoria can occur, dental pain because it is maxillary sinus, right? Then, what are the late features? Late features are nothing but features due to metastasis. So, if you see, this is the maxillary sinus, right? So, medial to the maxillary sinus, we have this nasal cavity. So, this is the tumor. Here, medially, even this has invaded the nasal cavity. So, whenever the tumor is in the maxillary sinus, medially you have nasal cavity and ethmoid. So, it can invade the nasal cavity and ethmoid. And anteriorly, if you see, you will have cheek muscles of the cheek, and also the skin you will have. So it can even invade the muscles of the cheek and the skin. Then if you see superiorly above the maxillary sinus, obviously you will have the orbit, right? Above your maxillary sinus you have orbit, and this can cause orbital features like diplopia, then proptosis. It can also cause loss of vision. Then if you see inferiorly below the maxillary sinus, you will have the alveolus, right, of teeth, mainly teeth. So whenever the tumor is growing above the teeth, so this can cause malocclusion of teeth, or there can be loose teeth hanging over also. Then if you see posteriorly, that is behind this you have this pterygoid plate. So these are the pterygoid plates and pterygoid fossa. So this is the pterygopalatine fossa. Pterygoid plates are present. So this can cause trismus, and sometimes it can also spread to the brain, causing intracranial spread. It can also cause intracranial spread. Okay, so this is about the malignant tumor. So we have learnt about the normal spread, that is spread through direct spread. Okay, now let us learn about the lymphatic spread. So if you see in the lymphatic spread, it occurs through, especially nodal metastasis can occur. So this nodal metastasis which occurs, that is actually uncommon. Here the nodal metastasis is uncommon, and earlier, if you see earlier metastasis occurs through retropharyngeal lymph node. The first lymph node to be involved in malignant tumor of paranasal sinuses is retropharyngeal lymph node, but most common lymph node, if they ask, that is submandibular lymph node. And nodal metastasis is also uncommon. Nodal metastasis is also not common. Next, coming to the diagnosis. So for diagnosis you will have to do biopsy should be done, and after biopsy the best or treatment of choice, investigation of choice, if you ask, that is contrast enhanced CT of nose. CECT of nose and paranasal sinuses is the best investigation. Okay, now coming to the classification. So in the classification we have two classifications which are associated with this paranasal sinuses. One which is called as Ogren's classification. Second we call it as um, Lederman's classification. In the Ogren's classification, first let me draw the skull picture. So this is the skull. Okay, so this is the eyes. For eyes, then we have nose, then we have the lips, and then tooth. Okay, I'm sorry, the picture is not that good, but still. Okay, so that this is the mandible, condyles of mandible. This is the mandible, and then okay, so these are the lower jaw tooth, and then we have upper jaw tooth. Okay, this is the orbit. Okay, so this is the mastoid cavity, mastoid process. Okay, spinous process. Now in the Ogren's classification, first we will draw a imaginary plane. You will have to draw an imaginary plane between the medial canthus of the eye, that is the medial canthus of the eye, from that to the lower, that is angle of the mandible. Through the angle of the mandible and medial canthus of the eye, you will pass a line. Okay, so that is imaginary plane is drawn between the medial canthus of eye and the angle of mandible. If you see even here, this is the medial canthus of eye, this is the mandible. Okay, angle of mandible, you will draw a line. Okay, this is the plane which is dividing, and this line is called as Ogren's line. Okay, this is called as Ogren's line. So now uh, this divides the whole skull into two parts, upper part or lower part, or we can also call it as suprastructure and infrastructure. The upper part is associated with poor prognosis, whereas lower part or infrastructure is associated with better prognosis. So this is about Ogren's line. Then after Ogren's line, then we have one more line which is called as Lederman's classification. So in the Lederman's classification, even for this I will draw a diagram. Okay, so if you see, that is the skull. These are the for maxillary sinuses I am drawing this. Okay, okay, so these are the nasal cavity. Okay, these are the sinuses, those are the maxillary sinuses. Okay, next we have the nasal cavity. Those are the turbinates of the nasal turbinates, and that is the nasal cavity which I am drawing. Okay, so that is the sinuses. Okay, so that is the nasal cavity. Now if you see, first we will draw two horizontal lines. First we will have to draw two horizontal lines which are passing. First horizontal line is passing through the floor of the orbit. So here you will have orbit, this is the orbit. So through the floor of the orbit you will draw first horizontal line. So if you see here, you are drawing the first horizontal line through the floor of the orbit, and that you will draw the second horizontal line through the floor of the antrum. First horizontal line through the floor of the orbit, second horizontal line through the floor of the antrum, and then you, that is two horizontal lines. Then you will draw two vertical lines. Okay, which are drawn on either sides of the maxillary sinus. Okay, medial to the maxillary sinus. Now now thus you are drawing two horizontal lines. I'm just writing them. Okay, passing through the first horizontal line is drawn passing through the floor of the orbit, whereas the second horizontal line is drawn passing through the floor of the antrum. Okay, now now let us learn about the divisions. So thus it has divided. So this classification is dividing this skull into three parts. We have the suprastructure, we have the mesostructure, and we have the infrastructure. Suprastructure involves the, these are the ethmoidal sinuses. See, even here you will see ethmoidal sinuses, and you see this is the frontal sinus, and you will also see sphenoidal sinus. And in the mesostructure, in the middle, you see maxillary sinuses. So these are maxillary sinuses. See, this is also a maxillary sinus. And you will have respiratory area of nose is also present in the meso structure. And we have infraalveolar part. This is the alveolar process which is present below. Okay, now once you have learned about it, now how are you going to treat this? The treatment is this squamous cell carcinoma? If it is a squamous cell carcinoma, Then because it is squamous cell carcinoma most commonly, you should do surgery followed by radiotherapy. In the surgery, you should do total or partial maxillectomy should be done. You should do either total or partial maxillectomy. The incision used in this total or partial maxillectomy is, we will use Weber Ferguson's incision. So how does this Weber's Ferguson's incision look? So if you see, I'm just drawing you this. This is the eye. Okay. Now I'm just drawing the picture of this Weber's Ferguson's incision. So if you see, in the Weber's Ferguson's incision, this incision is actually drawn starting from the upper part of lip. Just a minute, I'm just drawing the nose, right? Then this is the lips, okay, from the upper part of the lips. So it will start from here in the upper part of the lips, and then it goes upwards, okay. So it will mainly start from the lips here, upper part of the lips, okay, and then on the lateral side of the nose, from the upper part of lips and then to the lateral side of the nose, and then along the lateral wall of the nose you will draw the incision, and then you will extend it into the below the eye, okay. So this is called as Weber Ferguson's incision. Next, we have some other surgeries which are available. If this tumor extends into the either ethmoid or maxillary ethmoid complex, if it extends into the either the ethmoid bone or to maxillary ethmoid complex, then you will have to do a craniofacial resection should be done in such case. Then if you see, if the tumor extends to the infratemporal fossa, that is in the infratemporal fossa, if it extends, then you will have to do something called as external Weber Ferguson in extended Weber Ferguson's incision. Here something called as extended Weber Ferguson's incision is done. Then if you see, you can also do condylectomy. This is followed by condylectomy and resection of tumor with pterygoid plate and muscles. And you will have to resect the tumor with pterygoid plate and muscles. This technique is called as Barboza technique. Okay. Now, if it is small T1 carcinoma, then radiotherapy is not required. Surgery is actually sufficient. Okay. Next, coming to the prognosis. Okay, in the prognosis you can see 5-year cure rate is 30%. Okay, so this is about the malignancy. One more malignancy last, which is called as ethmoid sinus malignancy. This ethmoid sinus malignancy, it has poor prognosis. Okay, so this is everything about the tumors of the paranasal sinuses. So thank you guys for watching my lecture. Thank you.